listen, right? This thing, Deandra come and say, give me the ball. When I pull off his fist, give me the ball. I will take the blame. I will deal with that. I will deal with that. I will deal with them. Yeah. You know what, Deandra said, give me ball is good, she ball.
Right move?
Was probably the best move ever make. It's like a, what do you call that? A draw? No, not draw. Chess.
Checkmate, bro.
Checkmate.
Checkmate.
In dramatic scenes at the Bay Oval in Tauranga, Deandra Dottin walked up to captain Stephanie Taylor and demanded to bowl the final over in the West Indies ICC Women's World Cup opener against New Zealand. New Zealand needed just 6 runs for victory, and Dottin had not bowled any of the previous 49 overs. In fact, the 30-year-old had only thrown down 11 overs in international cricket since 2019 due to a shoulder injury which required major surgery. But Taylor put up no resistance, only pausing to warn the Barbadian that she would have to deal with head coach Courtney Walsh if it all went wrong. What followed thereafter was pure magic. Dottin conceded just 2 runs and picked up 2 key wickets. There was also a run out in the over as West Indies won by 3 runs to create the first upset of the tournament.
Get somebody out here. It's straight, the big shout. It's given out, it's given out. What about the moment straight away? Smacked and gone. Miracle wicket here. Straight through the keeper. They can't run it by. It's panic situation, and I think the West Indies have won.
Victory was earlier set up by a majestic century from 23-year-old Hayley Matthews. Matthews played with style, elegance and class, stroking 16 fours and 1 6 in a knock of 119 of 128 deliveries. Having been asked to open in place of the injured Rashada Williams, Matthews anchored the innings brilliantly and shared 3 half-century partnerships with captain Taylor, who made 30, Shemaine Campbell, who contributed 20, and Shadeen Nation 36. Here is the complete picture. West Indies 259 for 9, New Zealand 256 all out, with Sophie Devine making 108. West Indies, they did drop 5 catches and missed a run out, but still managed to inch home with the player of the match Matthews returning to take 2 for 41. There were also 2 wickets each for Dottin and Anisa Mohammed, who became the first female to reach 300 international wickets. Well, let's hear from the 2 Centurions, West Indian Hayley Matthews and then New Zealand captain Sophie Devine.
I've been shuffled around the order a little bit over the past maybe 8-9 months, but at the same time I think my job is to do as best as I possibly can for the team wherever they need me. And yeah, I think when I got the call yesterday that I had to go up the order, yeah, it was just about me going out there and doing that as best as I possibly could, and yeah, I got some today.
A lot going on at the moment, that's for sure. I think, as you said, it was a game that ebbed and flowed, that we, you know, were in it, then we're out of it, then we're back in it. I think, you know, take a great level of pride from the way that the girls fought, though, throughout their innings. I thought, you know, with the ball, we were probably very scratchy to start, and we gave them a few too many runs and got them on their way a little bit. So, look, they're small things that we can adjust and quickly, you know, tune up on. And then to take it to the last over, I think that shows the grit of this team and a bit of mongrel to try and take it as deep as possible.
Well, Fazir Mohammed is still with us. Faz, there's nothing I like better than some good West Indian women's cricket. Were you surprised by the performance of the Caribbean women?
Very surprised. I didn't anticipate it at all, especially as they were beaten so heavily in their warm-up matches. But we heard the coach, Courtney Walsh, the former West Indies captain and fast bowler, said don't read too much into it, but you just take that because of this culture of losing. You say, well, okay, well, Walsh, what else can he say? But then even towards the end in that final over, even if Deandra Dottin was not able to prevent New Zealand getting those 6 runs to win, I think the West Indies getting up to 259 and being so competitive was an outstanding performance, especially as you just mentioned, 5 catches and a run out were missed, which is something they will have to tighten upon. The fact that Dottin proved to be the match winner in that final over, taking the ball, taking the opportunity, saying that she will take the blame, that reflects confidence, that reflects the sense of recognition. Look, I'm a senior player. Somebody needs to step up here. And I think it's very admirable the way she did that. As I said, it could have gone all wrong. It could have been 2 inside edges for 4 and New Zealand would have won. But the fact that she was prepared to take that responsibility, I'm sure it would have sent a message to her teammates that, look, they are all in this together and it's not about anybody taking blame for what might have gone wrong. Fantastic performance.
Hayley Matthews, 23 years of age, known to put on a show at the World Cup. Again, maybe I'll ask, how surprised were you with her century?
Well, Hayley Matthews from 2016, when we saw her basically decimate the Australian bowlers in that World T20 final, when there were all these anxieties about whether or not the West Indies would fold, they're reliant on just 1 or 2 players. And here you had Hayley Matthews, just a teenager, a Carifta Games athlete, really dominating the Australians and coming good. And as she mentioned just a couple of minutes ago in the recording of that interview post-match, that she's been shuffled up and down the order, but was prepared to accept the challenge of replacing Rashada Williams. And she played a particular shot, it hasn't been shown in the highlights, off the back foot, punching through cover for 4 with very little follow through. And that told you she was at the top of her game as far as timing, as feeling everything was going right. And it was just good to see her carry it all the way through to 100. Because when you're taking on a top team like New Zealand, and New Zealand, the host, are a top team, you need someone to get you that big score, to be the anchor. And it was really heartwarming to see Hayley Matthews play that role and not rely on a Deandra Dottin or Stephanie Taylor or anyone else for that matter, that she took on that responsibility so successfully.
Fazir, I feel like a royal tool talking about this game now, because I predicted that the Windies would have been beaten yesterday, because I analysed the game quite simply to say that if the New Zealanders played at their best and we played at our best, the New Zealanders would still win. And here we are talking about the West Indies eking out a narrow win after making 259, when before the tournament started, the concern was whether they could make 200 and put 200 on the board. I say all that to say, Courtney Walsh, as you said, look, don't watch the warm-up games, we'll get it right when the tournament starts. What do you think accounted for the improvement in the performance of the usual suspects? Matthews and Dottin, Taylor to a smaller extent, but she was involved in a very important partnership. What do you think caused the team to be in a position to be able to show their best, at least their leading players, dragging the rest of the team with them?
Well, I am loyal to part 2, because if you had asked me before the game, I would have said the West Indies would lose by 1.5 miles. So let's get that out there immediately. So include me in that listing. But again, we can only speculate. But the West Indies were so poor at the last World Cup, 50 over World Cup, 2017, when they lost heavily to every top-ranked team, that you wondered what was going wrong. And it could only be that whether it was Walsh's impact, his maybe fatherly presence, trying to be positive, trying to encourage the players, to let them know that, look, you all have the ability. You've done it before. Not just the World T20 in 2016, but the West Indies reached the final in 2013 of the 50 over World Cup in India. And again, some of those players are still around. So it was about probably, I would suggest, reminding them that it's not that they just suddenly forgot how to play the game, that they are good enough. From Anisa Mohammed, even though her bowling was expensive, she went at 6 runs per over, but is now just the first West Indian to get over 300 wickets in senior women's international cricket. So I think they were all energized by the fact that, look, they are playing a World Cup again. It might be not too far again for some of them to stop playing internationally. And they were galvanized. I think that just the attitude of a Deandra Dottin. Yes, she played a few boundaries and then got out early. Hers was the first wicket to fall. But it just seemed to be a much more positive sort of energy than we were seeing previously, because you were almost cringing every time a wicket fell to say, well, okay, the collapse is coming out, the collapse is coming out. And it didn't really happen. So for New Zealand to have to get 260, which they would have never gotten before in a women's World Cup, that spoke volumes by itself, George.
Yeah, and the weight of runs is very important, because I want to say this to you as the last point, Fazir. perhaps it is in analysing the performance, not necessarily the result. The result is win or lose, no analysis there. Analysing the performance, Walsh will say, ladies, we won, but we got out of jail. Because, Fazir, I'm suggesting to you, if you brought someone who hasn't been watching New Zealand play cricket recently, or the West Indies, to know that there's a consistency gap between both teams, they would have said to you that clearly New Zealand aren't good, because the West Indies managed to drop 5 catches and to be sloppy otherwise in the field and still beat them. So I say that to ask you if the other parts of this performance wouldn't be cause for Courtney Walsh to say, well, girls, ladies, this is our performance floor. We are beating up New Zealand, but there's still so much for us to do, because maybe it is we need to thank our lucky stars because we could have thrown this game away.
Absolutely, and I think he'll also remind them, amidst the celebration, don't get carried away. This is just one match. I remember the West Indies men beating South Africa by 3 runs in the opening match of World Cup 2003, and they still couldn't get past the group stage. So the next match is against England, and they are the defending champions. The match after that is India, who were the beaten finalists in 2017. So it gets harder instead of getting easier. So I'm sure even as they're rejoicing and exulting in the performance, they'll recognize that they have some work to do to ensure that they can keep this winning momentum going for the next couple of matches, certainly.
Yes, yes, indeed. Fazir, it's been a tough day in cricket. As we said in the opening, joy unconfined when talking about the West Indies women, and then to be hit by the news of Shane Warne's death fresh after Rodney Marsh died, and Shane Warne's tweet, and then dying from a similar malady that struck down Rodney Marsh. Very, very difficult, but it's all part of life, and we celebrate the highs and we try to reconcile with the lows, and amid all that, we keep plowing on. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Always a pleasure, George.
Good, good, good. Fazir Mohammed there talking to us from out of TNT. We take a break on the Sports Mag Zone. Back with more after these.